Yeah, man. Thank you for sticking around. No, all in all, man, I actually really liked working for this client.
Yeah.
They were challenging, and I actually enjoyed that because it wasn't like this. I got feedback from these guys though, right? A lot of the other clients, especially so the person that took over for them, their marketing director, right when she left, Mike, right? He's cool. I like this guy.
Awesome, dude.
He always had opinions, feedback, and he was actually really fast on giving it too, right? Much faster than most clients that I've ever dealt with. Now that doesn't mean it was kind of like a, Josh, I need you to make this happen in this way, and I'm okay, yeah, sure, no problem. And then how am I going to make this happen? There was some of those times, which always happens, right? That's what as a director you're getting paid to do, right? Is figure out how to make it work for them. And I mean, we did. It was good. I really liked it. But when you have someone of this person's caliber, right? Because he's had, I don't know, I believe he's had experience with lots of other major brands, working for other global brands. And usually they there's a lot of pressure that usually comes with no feedback, I feel like.
Yeah.
Right? I just need you to get it to this point, and I don't know how to get there. And a lot of times there's no feedback, and you have to figure out how to get there. Mike had done this before. He knew the processes in and out. You know what I mean? And so it was actually really, really cool because it was more of a collaboration with this client in the end, I think, than it was with typical clients.
Yeah. No, I think one thing about Mike was
like there's no hiding anything from him.
No, he knows everything. And but what's cool about him is he had a lot of good input, right? It was never like just saying something.
No. Everything was valid. He had a reason.
Yeah.
Even if it made it like really difficult and we didn't know how we were going to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Or, maybe I had to stay up late to figure it out. Like it was all valid though.
Yeah, he was very good with his justifications, like that. And I'm a big believer in that. Like, if you can justify your reasonings, then that means it's...
Yeah, you're not changing it just for the sake of changing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So Mike was awesome there. And thanks, Mike. We miss you. Want to have you come back again.
I don't know if he watches this, but yeah, it would be great to work with him again.
Yeah, no, it was cool. But just, if anybody's doing things for multiple clients in multiple countries, just make sure you're checking all your deliverables, counting them out. And one thing I think is very valid, just a learning that I had from this, right? When we delivered for Indonesia, and I don't know if you know this, because they didn't send us the tech specifications in advance, they sent it after we finished shooting for TV. It turned out for Indonesia, public TV broadcasting had to be... Your safety zone was still 4x4.
Oh, wow. Really?
So 4x4 or 4x3. I can't remember.
That's old school.
That's old school. So like we had this thing where we can export it for you for TV, but we can't meet those safety zone requirements because we would have had to know that. That before
sure.
we shot.
That's really strange. Like,
I
can't believe that they still have
depending on the station, but because they have... in their rural parts are still...
That's true. Indonesia's huge, man.
Yeah.
I think it's like the third largest country in the world or something, right? And it's just massive, man. Because you know what? Because they have islands that spread super far out, right? So like if there's any programming that's reaching out there, it's got to be broadcast from somewhere near there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they didn't tell us in advance enough, so we couldn't shoot it for that.
Okay.
And so we did deliver in the end the videos, but we just couldn't meet the safety zones.
Right.
And then let them know they understood it completely, and they went with it, tried to get it broadcast. So
did it end up?
I have no idea, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
we're not
for their digital
either,
programming, they probably could, but for like the analog, the public broadcasting, maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to find one shot, but I wanted to show what the colorist actually did. She removed a reflection. But I guess it's not important because I can't find it. So
it's
I guess
when the BMW pulls in at the house for the first time.
Yeah, I don't see this.
So, whoops.
It's not there.
Oh, you know what? You're looking at 30. It's in the 60.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to show this. So like one thing that's pretty cool. We had a great colorist. Her name was Mim. She's pretty cool. She helped. So most of the time, I feel like you run into a lot of, I don't want to say politics, but a lot of times you run into politics, right? When people want to say, well, technically I'm not supposed to be doing that, right? And
not my department.
Yeah, exactly. So one challenge right now is like how small the industry's growing, if that makes sense. It's growing small in terms of software is readily available to all kinds of people, right? And you actually get people that are very, very talented. Maybe they don't know how to manage clients or work a client session, or something like that, but they can do, things that are really outside of that normal box that those people sit in, right? Like say a colorist, right? He does this. He doesn't do any visual effects. He doesn't do any sound. He doesn't do any editing. Technically now, though, the guy in the bedroom has the same software. DaVinci has all that in there. Yeah. He could literally do it if he wanted. Maybe it's not the proper process, and it might, screw up your post, your post pipeline. But the thing is, Mim does not have that mentality, right? She's actually young or quite young, so not that senior guys are not like this, but like she's willing to do things in a more fashion, like how do you say this?
She's more willing to solve problems because she knows.
Yeah, try new things. I guess is the best way. She's willing to try new things. So what I did is there was an issue here with the car. It's taking a long time to get to it. It's crazy. Sorry. So so this shot, right? So if you listen to this, whenever you saw it first, right? There's these like race car sounds that go zoom, 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 right? Like, and it's this whole thing to like show off like how cool of a car he bought, right? Because he's a dad and he bought it. His wife's mad, like, what'd you do buy this sports car without me? And we were trying to really drive home that point of like, he bought this cool thing on a whim because he's like, oh my gosh, sports car, I want it, right?
Yeah.
And when we show this, right, this is all behind the scenes footage, right? This was not actually planned. Our behind the scenes videographer shot it and we used it because it was like, hey, this will really help. Luckily, we put the behind the scenes footage on the same drives as the raw footage.
Yeah.
And our editor Lester found it, right? So he actually searched through all the behind the scenes footage trying to find something, and he used it. And so when we did this, our behind the scenes videographer was holding the camera and passed right in front of it. You can actually see his hand a little bit there. And so he had a huge reflection of himself here, right? And our colorist managed to put in like these little flares and stuff like that, and increase contrast and darken stuff, and did like a little bit of like this. It's kind of like more visual effects work that you kind of do in Flame to hide it. And so that's kind of like one of the that's the whole point I was making right there, right? So like, it's really refreshing to work with someone that will help you solve those problems.
Yeah,
I guess is what I'm getting at. Just a cool little note. I like the old school guys too.
No, I mean, I don't
they're
think it's
quick
an old school
and fast.
or a new school guy, because I don't know if you remember Guy, one of the colorists that we worked with before. Yeah, he started out from being a colorist, and DaVinci could edit, and he was like, "Oh, try editing." Yeah, and then now. He's,
oh really? He was doing grading before editing?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And then he started doing editing in DaVinci.
Yeah,
and then he got good at it, so he could do both. And then now he's also
he's a great editor in my opinion.
Yeah, he is. He has a very I think he's more of a visceral editor, right? He's good with pieces that are like more about.
He's good at grading, but I would go back to him for editing first.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like his grades. Okay. I feel like his edits, again, like I think he's very rhythmic. He's very familiar with doing music videos and stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got started in. So.
Oh, okay. But what I was getting to is now he's actually. I talked to him recently. He's also doing like, how do you say it? Like compositing and stuff like that, where he's removing stuff from frames, screening things and stuff.
See, now he's doing VFX.
Yeah, because
he's running it for all the old school guys, man.
He is an old school guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I mean, a post producer or sorry, line producer that needs to save money.
We'll go to him.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they can do everything.
Yeah.
Like he removed, like they had I was watching a music video he did. They had a guy who's just, they built failing to find the words, like platforms. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For like something scaffolding, 10 meters. And then they put like a bungee jump, a guy jumped off and then he had to remove the bungee jump and the scaffolding.
Yeah.
So it looks like this guy was just falling from the sky.
Yeah.
And he could do that. And I think he did it straight from Da Vinci or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah, you know, so what you were saying is completely right. Like the industry is growing smaller because the tools are better at it. It's
getting more accessible. Is a better way to say it. Yeah.
And in the future, I don't even want to think about it like AI.
There is something though, right? So like there's one caveat to the whole thing, right? Yeah. If you're not a master of one of those, right? Yeah, that's usually where you sacrifice quality, right? And that is one of the things, right? Like if you're really trying to get something that's premium, like if you go watch an HBO series, right? There's hundreds of people in post on that.
Yeah,
you're not gonna have one guy. The guy who's doing VFX is not doing grading because the guy who's doing VFX is the best guy in the world that does VFX, and he's doing that. Yeah. Same thing for the grade. You know, they're not going to try to save money.
Yeah,
well, they're going to try to create something that keeps people watching.
That's something arguable because House of Dragon nobody can actually see. The guy
you're supposed to turn your brightness up, man, on that.
So it's the viewer's fault at this point.
Yes. A quick reminder for all the people that are listening. It's greatly appreciated if you could leave us a review about the podcast and let us know your thoughts. Dude, I have no excuse. This is the second time there has been like a major public outlash about that, right?
Yeah.
This is House of Dragon, and they're both that's HBO, right?
Yeah, and Game of
Thrones. This is all the same universe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is it the same DOP? I don't know, man. Like, what's going on there?
So apparently, it's just I don't know if it's the same DOP, but basically, they're saying like, you know, it's an artistic choice to make it look really dark, and then.
Dude, okay. So this is the thing on Facebook. I'm friends with a lot of technical people.
Yeah.
Right. Colorists, DITs, these guys, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen multiple and okay, I used to follow all this tech stuff and everything, and I got out of it like 2 or 3 years ago and really stopped paying attention and focused more on the directing, right? And not like the technical side of it, and tried to lose, base with that as much as I could so that I could focus on story more. And I'm still friends with these guys though. And so the reason why I say that is because I'm assuming Facebook is not showing me a lot of that content anymore. I'm getting more, the algorithms that, haunt you. Like I'm getting more of story based, if that makes sense. I don't see a lot of tech stuff is what I'm saying. And when this last, what's it called? I don't watch the series. House of Dragon came out. Yeah. I saw like 2 or 3 DITs or colorists, I don't remember which, talk about this on a Facebook feed or Instagram or something, right? About how they tried to get their TV to display it correctly, and they were talking about like, because these are colors, right? So like they don't have just a normal LG TV, they got the LG version that you use in a presentation room.
They just have a flander in the living room.
Like they probably set up the probe and calibrate their TV in their spare time. You know what I mean? So like their TV is made so that it sees the best picture that you can.
Yeah.
And they could not see House of Dragons episode that had this issue, right?
Yeah.
And so so that's what I was like. Like 3 guys independently talked about this.
Yeah.
So I mean, artistic choice. I don't know. I mean, that's.
So I would say. I mean, when you say artistic choice, that's something where you can't argue. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if
it's subjective, right?
Somebody's gonna hate me in the comments or something, but it's like when you say objective choice, subjective, artistic choice.
Yeah.
One, it's subjective.
Completely subjective.
2, I'm sorry, that's a bullshit excuse.
No, but it is subjective.
It is, but I feel like it's an excuse because you can't argue it, right? Whereas in my opinion...
Oh, because you're shutting down the argument.
Yeah, you're shutting down the argument. No, it's supposed to be that way. It's an artistic choice. Yeah. Whereas like, instead of saying, well, okay, we'll improve on that, right? Mm-hmm. Because I do feel like no matter who you are as a filmmaker, you have a responsibility for your viewer to be able to view what your content, right? You can make it dark whenever, but they still need to be able to watch it.
Unless they don't want you to.
Unless they don't want you to.
Because that's the artistic
the
choice. That's what I'm saying. Like it all comes back to being subjective, you know, like
yeah. Well,
I get what if you shut down the conversation though,
yeah.
That's just straight up like that's what politics, people in politics do.
Yeah, so I think you can have again, back to justification, right? If you have a artistic choice, you need to be able to justify that artistic choice. Like, I'm doing this because none of the characters in the scene actually can see each other. So we want you to feel that same way. Like the previous one in Game of Thrones, I know this is not what we're supposed to be talking about, but the previous Game of Thrones episode where it was the long night when all the Night Walkers were attacking.
You're talking about the final final of this. There's the series finale.
It wasn't
finale.
I was not the finale, but it was like a couple episodes before the finale.
It's the other one that got that outcry on, right? Yeah.
That one when it first happened, I was watching it at home and I was like, okay, I guess in some ways it makes sense. It's like they're building up to this is such a threat and it's happening in such darkness.
Yeah.
So it's building up that sense of like the characters also can't see it. They also have this impending force that they don't know how large it is or how close it is to them. Mm-hmm. So for the viewer, you're building up that same tension. I feel like there's justification for that. But in a scene where people are walking and talking, you know, there is...
this is what I saw people this last time talk about.
Yeah.
So you know me, or we've known each other for a long time. You know what kind of movies I like to watch. And this is not one of the things that I watch, right? I don't get into...
You're not a fantasy type of guy.
Yeah, there you go. Fantasy and sci-fi, it just doesn't, you know, it's not something I'm particular about. But whenever this happened for the first time, Game of Thrones, right? It's the last season, right? Where it happened this first time, where everyone was like, hey, why is it so dark and whatnot, right? That's the only episode that I watched because I wanted to see what everyone was talking about, right?
Yeah.
And I've got HBO subscription, so I watched it. And I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
And I turned it off almost immediately. But like I skipped through the episode and I was like, wow, this is really dark.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I didn't get to actually understand that the people in the scene were having a hard time seeing also.
Well,
that makes sense.
My interpretation of it, right?
Philosophically.
Yeah. Like they're, you know, it's kind of like the same. I can understand. They could justify it as like when you're in the ocean and you can't see a shark, but you know it's close. You know,
sure,
that's some same kind of feeling they're
trying to. But is this not a technical issue? Like everyone that I've ever heard weigh in on this that has any kind of expertise, they all say that it's like it's not even up to standard. You know what I mean? It's off the. Or it's so dark that it should have never passed QC.
Yeah.
Right?
I would actually that's what I think I would agree with that a little bit. For that episode, for the new ones, I think there's no justification for it. Again, that's where like artistic choice, you know. If it was an artistic choice and they can justify it, I can see.
So that means you could just literally like go. So we're going to AFM. In next week, right? And I could just show up and give them a black movie file.
Yeah.
I just saw it.
Just sounds.
Yeah, it just sounds and say, hey, this is my feature-length movie.
Yeah.
It's an artistic choice. You can't see anything.
Well, I would argue that you could do something like that if you were saying, okay, my story is
called radio.
If my story is about, say, okay, this is hypothetical, right? I make a movie about a blind guy who is going on a date with a girl. And it's...
Yeah, this makes sense.
Then it's all black. You can't see anything, but you can hear it.
But this is good storytelling.
Yeah.
Right? You're making the viewer feel a situation.
Yeah, and then you're justifying it as you're putting them in the shoes.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So that's an artistic choice with justification.
This is how radio used to work, right? Like you have to explain, like back in the, I don't know, it was 30s, 40s, right? When people were not watching TV, they would listen to radio in the evenings.
Yeah.
They had storytelling, right? And so there was all kinds of different types of sound design, and your stories were a lot of times were based around there's this old school show called The Shadow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, where it's like news reports and he's like a vigilante or something, right?
So I barely remember the synopsis about it, but I remember he's invisible.
Oh.
Yeah. And so they called him the Shadow, right? I believe it's his shadow, but he's invisible. And so it worked really well for radio because you can't see it. There's nothing to see. You're following with sounds only. So it worked really well. Like it fit the whole radio format.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, right? Then it was an original idea, so it was probably groundbreaking.
War of the Worlds. Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, where it was a radio show. Yeah. And the way they presented it was like breaking news.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So they were actually
people started believing it. Yeah.
People went out and like they were shooting their water towers and stuff like that, thinking it was an alien ship or something like that.
Really? Because I'd heard about this, but I never researched actually what people did.
So there was like stories of, because they described the aliens' vessels as being like almost like water tower, having skinny legs, and walking. So some people were like, because they tuned in, it was after, I think the first episode was after some sort of a baseball game. So they didn't get into the beginning when they were like, the next broadcast is this show, right? It was like they got into when the news, it was, they were presenting it as if it was a news broadcast. So people were panicking, they were getting out of their house with a gun, and then they see the water tower, they thought it was.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Like back then, I guess there was nothing to compare that to.
Yeah.
Right? This is the first time that it's happening. If you hear the I don't know, the sound, the sound effect or the music for a news broadcast, you automatically think it's a news broadcast, right? Yeah. So no one had done this yet.
So Orson Welles, fantastic genius, and then he goes on to do Citizen Kane after that, right? Takes his radio genius to the cinemas.
We should do another podcast just on him. He's actually a super interesting character. Like the last film that he was trying to make, I don't think he finished. He was doing what I did. He drove the car so the DOP could shoot from. Like it became.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, it ended up being almost like a film school project in the end, trying to finish it, and then
wow.
It didn't.
Yeah. Actually, we can talk. That can be our like.
He had such an arc in his career.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, up and down. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Definitely. I mean, Citizen Kane is still one of the greatest movies ever made in terms of it pushed so many envelopes for film, right? You get like sound stages, you have wood ceilings. For the first time.
This is a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of actually, let's do this in a whole other.
We need to do that in a different thing.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Monthly director review.
It has been an hour, I think. So let's wrap it up. Yeah. That is that.